Hello to all the HubLE audience. My name is Niloufar Ansari. I'm a postdoc at Monash Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. I'm also an editorial board member of HubLE Meet the First Other Committee. I'm here today for an edition of Meet the First Other with Dr. Natalie Hyde from Deakin University in Australia. We will be talking about their paper titled The Association Between Muscle Mass and Strength in Relation to Bone Measures in Pediatric Population, Sex-Specific Effects, which has been recently published in Calcified Tissue International. So welcome, Natalie. To start with, can you tell us a summary of your work and how it fits into the big picture of the field?
Yeah, no problems. Thank you for having me, Neil, and it's a real pleasure to be presenting my paper today for HubLE. I guess how I would describe it fitting into the bigger picture of the field is that we obviously know that obtaining peak bone mass in early life is going to play a major role in preventing osteoporosis in later life. So it's really important to identify factors that will optimize obtaining peak bone mass. And we also know that a sizable proportion of peak bone mass is influenced by lifestyle factors such as physical activity. And this may be moderated by responses to muscle and muscle mass and muscle strength by exercise. So I guess what is less clear though is whether it's either the overall muscle mass or muscle strength that's the primary contributor to the favourable effects on bone. And there have been a few studies in adult populations which have looked at these associations, but very few in paediatric populations, and those that have been in children have looked at only single-sex cohorts. So we looked at data from the vitamin D in pregnancy study and asked the question whether it was overall muscle mass or strength or both together, and whether or not there were sex-specific effects with the associations on bone. So what we ended up finding was that muscle mass and strength was associated with favourable effects in bone in boys. It was a site-specific effect, though, where we saw that at the spine it was independently associated with muscle strength, but not muscle mass. But in girls, it was the opposite, whereas lean mass was the independent contributor to bone mineral density at the spine and the total body. That's, I guess, it in a nutshell.
That's very interesting because I always thought that the sex difference we see in adults are male and females. Like I didn't expect to be different association in boys and girls at early ages.
Yeah.
And that's something to shows that the changes is not just hormonal. There are more differences between the two sexes. My next question would be, what were the main challenges that you encountered with this work and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, well, I guess probably in all honesty, the main challenge that we probably faced was the actual recruitment of the participants. So given that the vitamin D in pregnancy study is a longitudinal cohort study, it started back in 2002, and some of the mother child pairs that we recalled at the 11-year follow-up we hadn't seen in about 10 years. So establishing that initial contact to invite them back for the study was quite hard, given that the young families as a population are pretty mobile and a lot of them had changed their addresses or their phone numbers. And back in 2002, we didn't collect their email addresses. But I guess I was really fortunate that I had a really great team behind me to help chase up and perform most of the legwork with following up secondary contacts that we'd got initially collected at the start and making lots of phone calls and posting out a lot of invitations to different addresses. So I guess the key was really persistence and not giving up.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Like now you can easily Google people and they would have the similar email address after a few years. Like you hope that you kept their old email address, but in those time it was all paperwork that you're having, and 11
Yeah, a
years.
lot of
Like
land. Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a long time. Anything
Yeah.
can happen. They might change their address, the city,
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, and we had a lot of landline phone numbers which were disconnected in this day and age too. So hopefully now that we've got more up-to-date addresses, we'll be able to keep in better contact with them.
That's great. So what's next? Are you going to follow up these people like in adult age, or what's the outcome of
Yeah.
this study would be for future research?
So hopefully, obviously, as everything in research, subject to funding, but I'd really like to conduct a young adulthood follow-up in the kids. So they're starting to turn 18 now, so I'd really like to look at these associations longitudinally to see if we're seeing a similar pattern of association now that they've gone through puberty and are approaching peak bone mass.
That's great, and we look forward to your next papers. So you published this work in a really good journal in the field of musculoskeletal research, Calcified Tissue International. How was your experience with that?
Yeah, I had a great experience. Like, I can't say I can complain at all. I found that the submission process was really easy. I think I had my first decision within about 2 months. And part of my decision to publish in CTI was really based on the fact that I've had a previous first author paper published there as well. And again, I had a great experience then. So it was in the back of my mind that I might go there with future publications. And true to that, I also have another publication under review with them at the moment. So I guess that really speaks for itself. They've been a pretty good journal to work with, I would say.
Oh, that's great. So in terms of your future goals and your career, how does this, we know that papers are always important, but how does this particular study, this particular work affect your future goals and what we see from Natalie, for example, saying in 5 years?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of my future career goals, it really helps to further solidify my research stream looking at early life determinants of peak bone mass. And this paper in particular would help diversify my work to date, given that most of my PhD work was focused on exposures during pregnancy. So this is really branching out and starting to look at exposures during childhood beyond pregnancy as well.
Oh, that's great. We look forward to your future work, your future papers in different journals and more than pregnancy in young children, in adulthood.
Yes. Hopefully with funding, we'll see some work coming out from young adulthood.
That's what we hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's getting any better with the funding or it's getting worse. Every day, like you encounter new things, and I think with this COVID, that would be a very challenging thing. Like now, all institutes and everyone are in uncertainty. After COVID, there would be some financial problem again.
Yeah.
So
I know, and certainly a lot of funding bodies that I was hoping to put into applications to have delayed their funding rounds for this year. So we'll have to
there have been some that they cancel completely.
Yeah.
Like I know 2-3 fellowship that they completely.
There's been a few of them too. So hopefully there's more opportunities moving forward next year, but wait and see, I guess.
We hope so. So thank you, Natalie, again for taking time to discuss your work with us today, and we hope to hear more from you and your group in future. I would also like to thank the HubLE audience for joining us. If you are early or mid-career in the field of musculoskeletal research and you would like to be involved in a HubLE initiative, please feel free to join us and contact us through our website, huble.org. And please also follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you.